Errors are inevitable, but dissatisfied guests are not.
Well, our guest today on the podcast has done all this.
If you question everything, you will find answers that you never thought of. We are in the business of selling sleep. Everything is secondary. No lady to first lady. In the service business, because people deal with people.
Hello and welcome to Minds That Matter, powered by Client Associates. I'm Mridu Bhandari. I'm a television journalist, a podcast host. Today I want to begin the show with a question. Do you know what it takes to stick with one company for over 4 decades, build the company, build the entire industry, put India on the world map, and gain global recognition in the process? Well, our guest today on the podcast has done all this while serving people from all walks of life, including 5 serving US presidents while he was in the hospitality space. He's shook hands with all of them, served them, made their India visits very, very special and privileged. And today it's my honor and privilege to host him on Minds That Matter. Nakul Anand, he's built not just a career at ITC, spending 45 years there. He's the architect of what today we call responsible luxury. He was also christened the Global Corporate Hotelier of the World in 2019. And of course, we are going to talk about many more of his achievements through the course of the next 45 minutes or so. Nakul, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Mridu, for having me on the program.
Well, I have to begin with one of the things that's very rare about you, which is one career, one company in your one life, which has been 45 years long with ITC. How do you really manage to do something like that? Because today's youngsters are all looking to, try out many different things, do as much as possible and retire very, very quickly. So, what made you stay with ITC for 45 long years? And
Let me begin by saying that let me sort of restate what you said. And if I may take leave of modesty, it's one school, one college, one job, one wife, so far, right? So that's where I am, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. Well, if people ask me how is it that I've stayed for 45 years within one company, my answer to them is always that because nobody ever called me for a job. And once I joined IT,
I'm sure you're being very modest while saying that.
Jokes apart, I think that I've enjoyed every bit of it. And what did it do for me? I think that if I really look back at my life and I see, number one, I was able to focus on the same company, in the same career throughout my life. I think that gives you sort of a tailwind that moves you forward. As a result of having stayed in the company, you get familiar with the company, you understand the ethos, you understand the values, you understand past successes and failures, you understand the foundation that the company was built on and what the founders, their vision was, etc. As a result of all this, I was perhaps the youngest CEO of the company. What did that do? When I became CEO at the age of mid-30s, late 30s, I knew I had a long tenure and hopefully 20, 25 years. So that gave me then a long-term vision to work on. I could craft the company in the manner that I wanted to rather than 3 to 4 years. Now compare this with somebody who moves his job every 3-4 years, takes you a year to adjust, takes you a year to get to know what are the do's and don'ts, etc. And very often they turn out to be rolling stones, right? And you move again after 3-4 years. So consistency in my one career gave me the focus and the long-term perspective.
Right. And your father served ITC as well. You lost him when you were pretty young at just 5 years of age. ITC took care of part of your schooling, your education. Was there, some sort of a subconscious feeling of wanting to follow in your father's footsteps?
Absolutely. I think I couldn't have been prouder than to have joined my father's company. But my father was working with ITC and I was only 5 when my father died. At that time, and throughout my schooling, my father's pension that my mother got paid for my schooling and till I got my job. And thereafter, ITC, I got my job and ITC has paid my salary. I've superannuated now. And and ITC's pension will perhaps see me through till the grave. And therefore, I can truly say that this is a story of cradle to grave.
Cradle to grave with ITC.
Absolutely.
Well, but that loss of a parent at such a young age, I'm sure it had some impact on you in your impressionable years. Do you think it kind of changed your relationship with ambition, with wanting to take responsibility early? Because your mother's a remarkably strong woman who brought you up, but was there ever that feeling that I want to get to responsibilities very quickly?
Yes, Mridu, I think that firstly, if I was to say that I missed a father, I don't know what it was to have a father because I lost him at such an early age. But when I saw the way my mother worked, the way she brought us up, me, my brother, we had a young sister who we lost also. So she's a very brave woman to have seen through all that. And when I saw that, it was interesting and important for me as quickly as possible to get a job and stop being dependent on her and relieve her of the burden, perhaps that it was. And therefore, I think the desire to start working very quickly was my first priority.
From the outside, this is what hoteliering looks like to all of us, right? We get these wonderful experiences, plush, luxurious places that we sit in. But for someone inside the industry, what does hoteliering really mean? What does it entail? What was your daily job looking like in the first couple of years? What kind of hard work and grind did you have to go through?
It seems very glamorous from outside. To the outside world, it seems that you're going to be sitting in five-star comfort and you're going to be looking at it. But that's all in the front of it. It's very, very hard work. And for those people who don't believe that it's a profession, it's a business of businesses. It involves everything that a corporate post may involve at senior management level or even at mid-management level, whether it be engineering, whether it be finance, whether it be marketing, whether it be public relations. It's just about everything that you've got to be a master at if you really want to grow into this business. It's therefore business of businesses. It's not easy. I'm always reminded, and in my autobiography, I've quoted this as the first page. There's a little poem by Mr. Berry which describes what this industry is about. And if I may, with your permission, read it out. It says, over the years, the lessons we learnt is that customer trust must always be earned, not through the quick road to easy gain, but through sweat, toil, and lots of pain. It takes tireless strife of mind and soul with customers' delight as our only goal. This road is not for the faint-hearted. Many have tried and soon departed, but those who stay to taste reward, thank their patron and the Lord. This to me describes everything what hoteliering is about, and I've kept this on my desk, I've kept this everywhere.
Wonderful. Well, you also once said that we are in the business of selling sleep. Now, what brought you to that insight? What kind of human psychology did you study to get there? And, how did it really change the way you worked at ITC?
So I think one of the things that I was a voracious reader, and thanks to Mr. Deveshwar, he was my mentor, and he once told me that I was a reader, and he said that, you're a thinking hotelier and you read. And once you get into higher positions like a general manager, you must continue to read because how important it is. And therefore, one of the things that my readings taught me was said that don't accept accepted thinking, question fearlessly. And I've always remembered the line that somebody told me that Gandhi questioned violence, Buddha questioned desire, Christ questioned revenge, the Wright brothers questioned gravity. If you question everything, you will find answers that you never thought of. So I've always always been very curious and not accepted the accepted path or the accepted way and said, why is this done this way? One day I got my team together and I said that we were sort of working on our annual plans and said that, okay, let's begin by saying, what business are we in? I think that's really what defines our mission, what defines our way forward. So somebody said we're in the business of luxury, somebody said we're in the business of pleasing customers. Anyway, finally I said that we are in the business of selling sleep. Everything is secondary. Mridu, if you've come to Delhi today to perhaps spend time with me or interview me, you would have stayed in a hotel. And if, despite all the bells and whistles, if that hotel hadn't given you a good night's sleep, you wouldn't be, you wouldn't be yourself today in this interview. And in sleep, all five senses come into play. It's the sense of touch, the bed sheet, the feel of the bed linen, bath linen, the sense of sound. You can't be sleeping if your air conditioning is making a noise, or your windows are not properly fenestrated that you're getting sound from outside or from the next door room. The sense of light, if light is pouring in through the windows. Sense of smell, if there is a musty smell in your room. All five senses. So we converted sleep into a science and defined every possible parameter. The lux level in should be so and so. The water pressure for a good bath to give you should be so much psi. The sound level at the middle of the night and the center of your bed should not cross 35 decibels at peak, and so forth.
So you put all these small things into place.
And we became known for our best sleep. That before this, many hotels had sort of started the bed and spoke about the bed, the heavenly bed, and so forth, etc. I went and slept in one of those beds and I couldn't sleep. The bed was the most comfortable bed I had, but there was noise coming from outside. There was light coming through the curtains. And then I said to myself that man does not sleep by bed alone. Right? It's all five senses that come into play. And that's where we went and redefined our entire hoteliering. Our philosophy became we self-sleep. And how do we make rooms right from the design stage to the operation stage to give you the best of sleep?
Well, you spoke about, how service should come from the heart. And you've spoken about this in your book, To Serve with Love, as well. Now, can service truly then be taught if it has to come from the heart? I mean, is it a skill? Is it an emotion? Is it a combination of everything that you've grown up with? How do you teach service from the heart to a hotel chain and, the scale at which you are operating?
So I think service can't be taught. I think service, you're either born with the service or attitude, or you're not there. So the first thing is, that's why in recruitment we say you recruit for attitude and train for skill, right? And somebody rightly said many years back, and it's always stuck with me, that it's your attitude and not your aptitude that determines your altitude in life, right? And therefore, a positive, if you take somebody with a positive with an attitude that is not service oriented, you're never going to be able to make him. Take this person, train him in skills of hoteliering, and most importantly, create a culture in an organization. Culture in the service industry is the catalyst, right? So in life, there is an input. The input multiplies to an output. In engineering, you call it a machinery, right? The machine multiplies the input to the output. In chemistry, it's called a catalyst, right? A catalyst takes this to this. In army, it's called a force multiplier, right? In the service business, it is culture, right? It's the culture that multiplies it. Let me give you a very good example, and I think you'll understand what it means. We're opening a hotel in Sri Lanka, and a very well-known hotel, and it was huge, and it was in the vicinity of 6 or 7 hotels. So I stayed at one of the competitive hotels. Everybody knew who I was. I was chairman of the company that was opening the adjoining hotels. So everybody would either give me their visiting card and VVIP card. So if you have a vacancy, we'd like to come there and this and that, etc. So just to put it, that nobody knew who I wasn't. Everybody knew what I was. And of course, very kind of the management, they had upgraded me to a suite, etc. So next morning when I woke up, I'm very fond of my particular cup of tea. I love my Earl Grey with just a drop of milk, and I like half a sweet and or a sugar-free into it.
So British.
So, okay. So housekeeping had forgotten to put the sugar-free. Now, I remembered that, so I rang up housekeeping and I said that, I don't find a sweetener in my room. So this lady very quickly said, "Sir, sorry, we are out of it." And she was most apologetic. I now remember that I had my last cup of coffee in the coffee shop. And it was there on my table, typically amongst the brown sugar demere, all the sugars were there. So I rang up the hostess and she immediately picked up the phone. "Hello, Mr. Anand, we've got your table ready for breakfast." I said, "No, that's not why I'm calling. I saw some sweetener, and is it possible for you?" She said, "But of course, we'll have it sent up to you immediately." I waited 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it didn't come up. I rang up this lady and she picked up and I said, but haven't you, but she said, you haven't got it? Oh, I'm so surprised, Mr. Anand. I'll just call you back. So she called me back after 2 minutes and said, Mr. Anand, we've told room service, they will be sending it up to you. I said, okay. I waited another 10 minutes, it never came up. Then I rang up room service. And I told room service, I said, room service, I'm waiting. I understand that they've given this to you. This, yes, sir, we've told housekeeping, and housekeeping will be coming up anytime. So, okay. I waited 10 minutes again, and by now it was 1 hour. I hadn't had my cup of tea, and I was not angry, but I was enjoying a service interaction of a kind and wondering what happens. I then rang back housekeeping again, and I told housekeeping, I said that, I've been waiting, and this is what I've done. They said, but we don't have a sweetener. We are so sorry, we did tell you that. So it's like, I don't know whether you heard the poem, the hole in the bucket, dear Liza. It's exactly like that. I never got my sugar-free. Now, if you think back and look at this, who do you blame for this? Not the reception, not the lady, the hostess who picked up, not the room. This is the culture of the organization. If the culture was that I take personal responsibility to make sure that what Mr. Anand or Mridu has requested for is delivered, then that would have been the culture. So this is the leadership. This is where culture fails, right? And this is all about what service is, to create the culture, to inspire people to give that discretionary effort. Two receptionists on duty. The first day Mridu walks in, they say, hello, Mrs. Mridu, how are you? And hope you had a nice day, and gives you your key. Done nothing wrong, been absolutely great, taken your name there. Next day you come, there's another receptionist there who says, ma'am, you're looking so wonderful today despite the fact that you had such a long day. Can I send you a lovely cup of tea? And our chef has prepared some lovely pastries. We've had some new strawberries. Can I send it up to your room? Now, what did this one do? The difference between B and A, she put in a discretionary effort, right? And that really wowed you. Why did they put in this discretionary effort? Because she knows somebody is watching. It's the culture of the organization. That's what I mean by culture.
Everyone in every hotel empowered enough to offer these discretionary spends on the hotel, so to speak.
That is the difference between good and bad service. There are some hotels that function as a factory, where you are a number and I'm here to process you. You're not Mridu, you're number 3, 4, 5. Let me give you an example. And there's a book on this, and very similar to it. The book is also called The Milkshake Moment, but that's exactly what happened to me. I also enjoy my milkshake in the evening, and I landed up in this hotel, and I was in Cincinnati, Ohio. And late night, I arrived at about 10:30. Wasn't very hungry, so I said, I'll have a strawberry milkshake. I rang up room service, and I said that could I have, they closed at 12, so I said, can I have, so called back and said, sir, we don't have a strawberry milkshake. I said, but you do have milk and you do have strawberry ice cream. Can you mix the two together to send it? So she said, okay, I'll call you back. Called back and said that, no, sir, we can't do that because it's not on the menu. Then I said, but there must be some meshes. Even if it was on, sir, we wouldn't know how to price it. I said, you take the price of the ice cream, take the price of the milk, add the two, and just, our computer will not accept it. We don't have this price. Now, this is what is called the milkshake moment. You are so driven by procedures that the customer becomes a factory. You're a number, I'm here to process you. That's what happens.
To be honest, a lot of Indian hotels would offer you that milkshake, and I think the hospitality that perhaps Indian hotels have as opposed to many parts of the world, I think it kind of surpasses the West.
Exactly what you said. That's why people always say that the hospitality in Indian hotels is so good. It again comes from our very and our upbringing. Atithi Devo Bhava. We've grown up in that, and you and I as kids know that when guests used to come to our house, what we look after, mehman hai, mehmangiri, this that. We know at weddings how we handle the barats and guests, etc. So we've grown up in that culture, and that comes naturally to us.
Now you rose from operations to the board, chairman of the board. Something very, very few hoteliers have been able to achieve, especially in this part of the world. What mindset shifts did you have to go along with, on this journey from making it from operations and night manager to actually the board?
I think that as you evolve along in life, number one, as I said, that I kept reading, and Mr. Deveshwar encouraged me to keep reading. And my own experience has been that learning compounds, just as, and no wonder Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world, because it continues to compound. And that really got me levels far beyond what most hoteliers would do, etc. I think the biggest transformation in leadership as you move, and I always say this is the example of the microscope and the telescope, right? At the junior levels, your eye is only on the microscope, right? As you begin to move, you begin to look a little bit into the telescope also, or the periscope, whatever you'd like to call it. Ideally, when you reach senior management levels, etc., I would like to believe, and I'm sure each one has a style, I would still keep one eye on the microscope, but a large one on the telescope, where you're looking at future trends, you're looking at what is going to happen, etc. That's the essential change. And I think that I saw sustainable luxury. I saw sustainability becoming a key part of a consumer offer. And I was if I may again take leave of modesty, in '92, I was given the Green Hotelier of the World Award. People didn't even know the word sustainable then, right? But I'd already started the Welcome Environment program. And I knew that, this is going to be, and I was passionate about it because the more I read about it, the more I learned that the world is endangered, right? We owe it to our future generations. And we have to correct our practices. We have to correct the carbon footprint, etc., and things like that.
Well, in your time at ITC, you've also hosted 5 US presidents. What was that experience like? And what did it mean for the back-end machinery? Because hosting literally the most powerful person in the world couldn't have been easy, and that too 5 times over. So, give us a few anecdotes, give us a few stories that we don't know about, how this happens.
So let me first get back to you and take you a little back into the history, and nobody was right or wrong. But when I took over as general manager Maurya, my predecessors had banned heads of state and said we won't take heads of state in this hotel. When asked why, they said that it interferes with the business traveler. The motor carcade blocks there and a business traveler, and we are purely a business traveler, and we must remain focused on our business. So that was their viewpoint. My viewpoint was we had a separate entrance, which was the Dampuk entrance. We could use that. And it gives a great amount of it. So I started working on getting back heads of state, etc. One of the biggest embassy was in our premises. And I was in leave at London, and I get a call that this embassy that gives you 40, 50 rooms a day, which was our biggest account, has banned anybody from staying here. And when I asked why, they said that one of the lady guests was passing through the lobby, and perhaps one of the bystanders trying to enter the Ghungru, which was a very popular discotheque, and there would be thousands of people waiting there, may have passed a comment or something and felt that his guests were not safe there. Anyway, so I flew back because this is largest. I went and met the head of the counselor so far and convinced him. He said, okay, I'll allow my male guests to stay, but I will not allow any lady guests to stay here. I never gave up. I said, it then went back into my thinking board with my team, and we said that the single lady traveler is going to increase. In India, the perceptions of safety may not be too much, right? So therefore, can we create a ladies' floor? So we created a ladies' floor. We called it the EVA floor. There would be only ladies who would service, a lady engineer. There was even a black hand towel for your makeup, so it didn't stain it. There was your kind of makeup. There were larger mirrors. There was the call button. The moment the doorbell rang, the picture of the person on the door would flash. That who's it's all security aspect. And I kept going back to this counselor and telling him that see what we've done. And he said, look, I appreciate your efforts, but I still can't sort of allow these guests to come here. Couple of weeks later, and I was persistent. I kept trying, etc. Couple of weeks later, he had an important delegation that was overflying and sort of had some engine problem and had to land. It was an all-ladies delegation. So that lady, he rang me up and said that, okay, let me give you a chance. Do you have the floor? I said, yes. Even if you didn't have the floor, I made the floor available. I created a ladies' floor, etc. By the time, this lady stayed for 2 or 3 days because her aircraft took that much time, and she had a wonderful time. And when she left, she told me that, the first lady is going to come here, and I'm going to make sure that she stays here. And I'm going to recommend this hotel to her and tell her what a lovely, and hope she stays there. The first lady came, and that was Hillary Clinton. And when she came, and on the eve of her departure, she had a lovely stay. Went and gave her an apron with bill written on it, Bukhara apron, while she was dining, and said, "We believe that the US President, POTUS as we call him, is likely to visit. Could you recommend our hotel to him? We'd love to host him." And she said, "Of course." And that's where he came, and all the other presidents followed. Moral of the story is no lady to first lady, right? And in every adversity, there is an opportunity. And an important lesson that it leaves for the service industry, and which I tell everybody, in the service business, because people deal with people, errors are inevitable, but dissatisfied guests are not. It's how you recover from these situations where the impact can be better than if it had not happened in the first place. That's an important lesson in the service industry. Absolutely. Coming to your point, it's you sleep on the sofa when you know, because there's no other room occupied, the presidential room there. When all the preparations are done and you hear the motorcade and the sirens coming, there's a chill up your spine. What if there's a cockroach in the middle of the night? What if there's a power failure, despite the fact that you have every backup to a generator? There's everything out there. But till you don't go, I mean, you literally, you've got the most powerful man in the United States. You've got the whole country looking at you. And it's all in your hands. The crown stops on a heavy lies the head that wears the crown, and the buck stops here. And every meticulous detail with you and your team, and keep them motivated. And, you know, you've got to just run through every possibility, the elevator, the timing, the food, for security reasons, sometimes the bed position is changed at the last minute, everything. But there is absolutely no room for error. You're in coordination with the Secret Service, with the White House, with the local embassy. You've got to know the minute to minute, when he leaves, when he comes, the program, etc. So it's quite a task, but most enjoyable and phenomenal learning.
Absolutely. Well, you were also recognized as the Corporate Hotelier of the World, the Global Corporate Hotelier of the World in 2019. What did that mean to you? And what does, for those who are not from the hospitality sector, what does this really mean for India?
So what did it mean for me, etc. was one important part, and I'll come to say that I've always believed that don't look at the scoreboard. Play the game and the board will take care of itself. If you keep looking at the scoreboard, right, how are you going to play your game? Right? And I followed that same passion in my career. I've never looked at where I'm going next. If I'm worth it, I keep doing my best and I will keep moving ahead in life. When I became Corporate Hotelier of the World 2019, it was obviously an acknowledgement by the rest of the industry. So they got up and saluted and sort of applauded me for my achievements. Now that is the achievement which I never expected. I was so busy playing the game. Right? So that's what gave me the greatest sense of satisfaction and the greatest sense of joy. Again, I think the moral of the story is think outside the box, right? Keep reading, continue to reading compounds, learning compounds, as we said. Foresee future trends, etc., to see what is happening. Yeah. Challenge what is the current status and don't accept it. People always believe that luxury and responsibility couldn't go hand in hand. If you were to stay in a luxury hotel, it can never be a sustainable hotel because you sort of throttle the water pressure. The room is hot till you come in because the AC is off and then you switch it on. They recommend you don't change your bed sheet for 3 days or your towel for 2 days, and they give you a certain number of bonus points. These are all the things that go. So our task, we had rebranded ourselves. We had moved from Sheraton to Luxury Collection. We had a complete program called Champagne Wishes and Caviar Dreams, how we transformed our staff into luxury thinking. Our choice was now sustainability or luxury. We gave it a broader word and said responsibility instead of sustainability, and said which path should we choose. ITC's DNA had taught us that green is the way to go forward. It's part of our DNA. And rightly said that if we don't see green, we see red. Right? That's literally what we grew up on. But yet we had gone into the luxury business. We were not there. So do I choose responsibility or do I choose luxury? I said, no, we will not choose either. We will choose both. We will take the path less traveled and we will see how we can combine the two. And thus was born Responsible Luxury. It was born at ITC Gardenia. where it was the first platinum rated hotel, which is the most sustainable hotel amongst the first 2 or 3 in the world, and yet acknowledged as the most luxurious hotel. That gave us the confidence that you could blend the two together. The secret is that we take care of the back end. You come and indulge yourself. Our water comes from recycled sources. Our power comes from renewable sources, and so on and so forth, etc. Zero wastage on our food. Minimum use of plastic. When you leave, even after indulging, right, you have left a positive footprint. That was our message.
And today, you are on boards of companies, you are mentoring startups, you're taking reverse mentoring from your sons and their colleagues. You are developing a chain of hotels which will be called Anand. Working on it. So looks like you have no plans of chilling, so to speak, or slowing down.
I think that this is the best phase of your life, where you can pass on, and I think I enjoy passing on. And I think the day I superannuated or before I did, I defined my goal in one line, and I said, "My hindsight, your foresight." Unfortunately, God gives you a comb when you're bald, right? But I'd like to pass on my knowledge to youngsters so that they're armed with it. So tomorrow they become better hoteliers, better human beings, even if they were to take 1 or 2% of those learnings, or better managers, etc. Therefore, I'm driven by everything that I've done. I have no commercial interests as such, but it is driven by my hindsight and your foresight, and passing on my knowledge to others, whether it is through my book To Serve with Love, whether it's a book that I've already written called The Hors d'oeuvres, whether it is the lessons that I put in The Night Manager. All of these are just aimed at that.
So what's one thing that you haven't tried yet, which you are looking forward to?
Not going to work at all, but I think that's not what I would settle for right now. And I would continue. I think that there are lots of messages that I can pass on to youngsters. There are lots of life lessons that I can pass on, and I'd like to do that.
And what's one lesson that you've learned via reverse mentoring?
I've learned about social media, the importance of it. I've learned, I keep running to my son, and how do I do this? What is this? No, this is an Insta post. This will go off after so many days. This will that. Took me a long time to understand it, and I'm still trying to understand it, but a lot of it. So my other son is in finance, sort of spent a lot of time in finance. So I always consult him on my investment decisions, etc. But it's wonderful, and I think that the knowledge that the youngsters grow up with, etc. And as I see that if that knowledge exists in social media, if that knowledge exists in finance, that knowledge doesn't exist in hoteliering. I'd like to pass on that knowledge to hoteliering.
Wonderful, Nakul. Absolutely a pleasure to have you with us on the show. Thank you for that incredible conversation and for all the insights and anecdotes you've shared with us today. Well, what stands out about Nakul Anand is not just the scale of his journey, but really the simplicity of his thinking. Because in the end, whether it's leadership, whether it's luxury, whether it's life, I think the smallest details often create the deepest impact. That's all we have on this edition of Minds That Matter, powered by Client Associates. We'll be back next time with lots more. Until then, thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you.